Hey Man United fans, it's Anne again, and today we have got an absolute mountain of news to get through. And honestly, every single story is worth your time. We've got major updates on United's center back hunt, a new midfield target has emerged that could be the key piece of the summer puzzle. Bruno Fernandes has been speaking about life under Michael Carrick and what he said is genuinely fascinating, and there is a lot more besides. This is one of those videos where you really do want to stay until the end, because every story connects to a bigger picture of what United are building this summer. So let's not waste any more time, let's get into it. Let's start where the most interesting debate is happening right now, the center back situation. Because on the surface, you might look at the Maguire contract extension and think, okay, United are sorted at the back. They can focus their energy and money elsewhere. But the reality is considerably more complicated than that, and the latest reports make that very clear. Despite Harry Maguire signing his new deal, a one-year extension with the option of a further 12 months, which he reportedly took a pay cut to secure, a real testament to how much he wants to stay a Red Devil, Ineos are still fully intent on bringing in a new center back this summer. Team Talk are reporting it clearly. United are still expected to add another center half when the window opens. And to understand why, you have to look at the full picture of what's happening in United's defensive options. Yes, Maguire has been brilliant under Carrick. He has played every single match since the new manager took charge, been an absolute pillar at the back, and has been central to United picking up more points than any other side during Carrick's reign. That form earned him his new deal, absolutely. But here's the thing. Maguire is 33 years old. You love him, I love him, but he's not a long-term solution. And then there's the injury situation. Matthijs de Ligt, who was actually the standout performer under Amorim before the manager was sacked, has been ruled out with a long-term back injury. That's a serious problem. De Ligt was supposed to be one of the premier center-backs in the squad going forward. And then you have Lisandro Martinez, United's warrior with that incredible left foot, who has suffered a devastating series of injuries since arriving from Ajax in 2022. When you put those two together, De Ligt's back, Martinez's recurring fitness concerns, United suddenly look very thin in central defense when you get past the surface level. Lenny Yoro is there, yes, and Aiden Heaven is coming through as well. But the coaches have been clear that Yoro still needs to develop, particularly in terms of the aggressive, defensive side of his game. And Heaven, as exciting as he is not yet ready to be a guaranteed starter at Premier League level. So the need for another center back is real. It's not panic buying. It's smart, forward-thinking recruitment that accounts for the injury vulnerabilities already in the squad. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Because while we talked yesterday about United's interest in Werder Bremen's Karim Koulibaly, and that story is still very much alive, there is another name in the frame that is arguably even more intriguing, and his name is Castello Luqueba. Luqueba plays for RB Leipzig. He is 23 years old, and he is a French international center back. He is a long-term target at Old Trafford. This isn't new interest. United have been repeatedly linked with him. But what is new is the price situation, and it makes this story a lot more urgent. Leipzig have slashed their asking price for Luqueba from his £70 million release clause down to £55 million. That's still serious money, but it represents a significant reduction. And here's the part that is really going to grab your attention. Luqueba's camp have already made contact with every single member of England's elite to push for a Premier League move this summer. United have been formally notified of the option. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham have all been contacted too. So this is a player who is actively engineering a move to England, and United are right in the conversation. So what kind of player is Luqueba? Let me break it down for you. He's a left-footed center back. Left-footed center backs are gold dust in the modern game, and United know this. He has outstanding ball progression abilities, which means he's not just a defender who clears his lines. He initiates attacks, drives forward with the ball, plays out under pressure. That's the modern Premier League centre-back profile that every top club is hunting. He's also excellent in duels and has the speed and strength to cover large spaces in transition. At 6 foot even, he's slightly undersized compared to the typical Premier League standard, but he has a brilliant leap and is capable of competing aerially with taller forwards. And there's a fascinating tactical point here. His profile actually lends itself more to being a long-term successor to Lisandro Martinez than to Maguire. That left foot, that technical quality, that warrior mentality in duels, it's reminiscent of what Martinez brings at his best. And given Martinez's injury history, having that kind of cover and eventual succession plan is not just sensible, it's essential. Now, some people will argue, and this is a fair point, that with Euro and Heaven already at the club, spending big on yet another young centre-back is excessive. That argument has merit. United could end up with a serious logjam in central defence if they're not careful about how they manage the squad. But when you weigh that against the injury risks with De Ligt and Martinez, the age of Maguire, and the development time still needed for Euro, there is a strong counter-argument that Lukeba fills an exact need right now. The competition for his signature is fierce. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, those are not easy rivals in a transfer race. United will need to move quickly and decisively, but at 55 million for a 23-year-old French international with this profile, they have every reason to try. Now let's transition into the midfield picture, because Fabrizio Romano has confirmed what many of us suspected. United need 2 midfielders this summer. 2. And the first name to emerge as a concrete target is Angelo Stiller of Stuttgart. Now, Stiller is a name that some United fans will already know, and some will know with a hint of frustration, because he was reportedly a target last summer too, and at that point he turned down a move to Old Trafford. So the question immediately becomes, why would this summer be any different? Well, a few things have changed. United are in a very different position now. Under Carrick, they are flying. 3rd in the table, winning 7 of 10 matches under the new manager, almost certainly heading into next season's Champions League. That changes the conversation considerably when you're recruiting. Players want to be part of a project that is moving upward, and right now, United's trajectory is unquestionably positive. Stiller is 25 years old. He plays as a deep-lying midfielder, and he's the kind of profile that Christopher Vivell, United's recruitment director, who is said to be a huge fan, clearly sees as the future of that position in the team. At £50 million, it's not a bargain, but it's fair market value for a midfielder of his quality and age. And with Casemiro leaving and Ugarte also set to depart, that midfield genuinely needs rebuilding. Stiller would be one piece of that reconstruction. There is also a broader context to consider here. Mason Mount, who has had such an injury-riddled time at United since arriving from Chelsea, is being linked with moves away. Bruno Fernandes, as we'll get to in a moment, has a contract that runs out in 1 more year with a release clause that foreign clubs can trigger. The midfield situation is genuinely in flux, and 2 new faces could actually be a conservative estimate of what's needed. Stiller's ability to control tempo from deep, his technical quality, his pressing, all of that fits what Carrick appears to want from his team. The intelligence, the discipline in possession, the ability to be a platform from which the more creative players can operate. If United can get him this summer where they missed out last year, it would be a real statement of intent. Okay, now I have to talk about Bruno Fernandes, because he gave an interview to the Men in Blazers podcast that is genuinely one of the most interesting things a United player has said publicly in quite some time. Fernandes has been absolutely sensational this season. 8 Premier League goals, 16 assists, still 7 games to play. He is in the conversation for PFA Player of the Year. He is, without any question, United's most important and influential player. And what he said about the transformation under Carrick versus the nightmare of Amorim's tenure is both revealing and kind of beautiful. He talked about how the team is more compact now, more organized defensively, more willing to grind through difficult moments in a match. Under Amorim, United were actually near the top of the league for creating chances. Think about that for a second. They were creating the chances, but they weren't finishing them. And when teams did get into their box, they were conceding. There was an imbalance between what the system was capable of producing offensively and what it was giving up defensively. Carrick has addressed that directly. Fernandes described it brilliantly. They've learned to suffer. They understand that in a match, there are moments where you are not at your best, where the game is against you. And rather than panic or fall apart, you weather the storm. Big clubs find ways to win games, pretty or not, and that mentality shift has been enormous. He also gave a brilliant answer when asked which club legend he would want to play alongside in the current team. Now, you'd expect him to say Cantona or Keane or maybe Ronaldo. Instead, he said Michael Carrick. And the explanation was so pure. He talked about training with Carrick when he was still a player under Solskjaer, how as a number 10, you want that 6 to find you as fast as possible, and Carrick was extraordinary at it. The timing of the pass, the control, finding his teammate as free as possible. Fernandes said, "Sometimes it's not about having the ball for so long, but about finding your teammate in the best possible position. For a 10, that's perfect." That kind of mutual respect and understanding between a manager and his captain is incredibly valuable. It explains a lot about why Fernandes is thriving under Carrick in a way that he didn't always under Amorim. He's back in his natural position as the creative outlet, rather than being deployed in that deeper role that never really suited him. When Fernandes is happy, when he's in position, when he's thriving, United are a better team. It's that simple. But here's the elephant in the room that we cannot ignore. Fernandes has 1 year left on his contract. He has a £56.68 million release clause that foreign clubs can trigger. Saudi clubs were interested last summer. That interest could absolutely come back. And at 31 years old, this coming season could be the last one where Fernandes is truly at the peak of his powers. United's priority has to be tying him down to a new deal. Because losing Casemiro, losing Ugarte, potentially losing Fernandes, that is not a midfield refresh. That is a midfield demolition. The club has to act on this. And given how positive Fernandes has been about Carrick, how much he clearly loves the club, there is reason for optimism that an extension can be agreed. But it needs to happen. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture here, because I think it's important to appreciate just how much has changed at Manchester United over the last few months, and how much still needs to happen to complete the transformation. When Ruben Amorim was in charge, the mood around the club was genuinely bleak. A manager who seemed ill-suited to the Premier League, players playing out of position, results that were inconsistent at best and catastrophic at worst. De Ligt emerging as the standout performer, Maguire on the bench, nobody quite knowing what the identity of the team was supposed to be. Then Ineos made the call to dismiss Amorim and appoint Michael Carrick, and everything changed. 7 wins from 10, more points accumulated than any other side during that period. Fernandes thriving, Maguire back as a leader, a genuine sense that this squad, when organized and motivated correctly, is good enough to finish in the Champions League places. 3rd in the table, Champions League football almost certain for next season. And now, the summer is coming, and United have a real opportunity to build on this momentum in a way that can make them genuine title contenders next season. The pieces they need are becoming clearer by the day. 2 midfielders, Stiller being one concrete name, another still to emerge. A centre-back, with Lukeba and Koulibaly both on the radar, and a decision to be made about which profile fits better and which race they can realistically win. And above all, a resolution on Fernandes' contract, because he is the heartbeat of everything Carrick is building. The injury situation with De Ligt and Martinez adds urgency to the defensive recruitment. The Ugarte exit frees up a spot and theoretically some funds. The Casemiro departure creates the biggest void. Finding a defensive-minded midfielder with his reading of the game, his Champions League pedigree, his leadership, that is an enormous ask. but Stiller could be a different kind of answer to that problem. Not a like-for-like replacement, but a progressive, technically excellent midfielder who redefines the role. Let me also quickly mention one more name in the mix from the transfer rumors. And while this one isn't directly a United story, it connects. Angelo Stiller's potential departure from Stuttgart would leave a vacancy at one of the Bundesliga's most interesting clubs, and the dominoes of the midfield market tend to fall in unpredictable ways. What happens at Stuttgart will affect other clubs. What happens with Ugarte, whether Ajax or Galatasaray can agree a deal, affects United's budget. These threads are all connected, and United's recruitment team will be monitoring all of them. What is clear is that Ineos are no longer operating reactively. Under the old regime, transfers felt scrambled, last minute, often driven by agents rather than by a coherent plan. What you're seeing now is structured. Scouts watching Koulibaly, formal notification about Lukeba, long-standing interest in Stiller dating back to last summer. Decisions on Ugarte made months before the window opens. This is a proper recruitment operation, and it's beginning to bear fruit. All right, let's bring everything together and do a proper summary of where things stand, because there is a lot to process. In central defense, United are still actively looking for a new centre-back despite the Maguire extension. The driving forces behind this are the injury concerns around De Ligt and Martinez, the development time still needed for Euro, and the age of Maguire. Castello Lukeba of RB Leipzig is the primary reported target. A 23-year-old French international, left-footed, technically excellent, valued at £55 million after Leipzig cut the price from his full release clause. His camp have already reached out to United and England's other top clubs. Karim Koulibaly of Werder Bremen is also on the radar, the 18-year-old German youth international who has taken the Bundesliga by storm this season. Chelsea lead that race, with Werder wanting 40 to 50 million euros. In midfield, 2 signings are confirmed necessary by Romano. Casemiro leaves at the end of the season after a brilliant final campaign. Ugarte is set to follow. Angelo Stiller of Stuttgart is reportedly increasingly likely to be a target at £50 million, with United's recruitment director Christopher Vivell a known admirer. The fate of Bruno Fernandes' contract, 1 year remaining, a triggerable release clause, hangs over everything and must be resolved. On the pitch, Bruno Fernandes has spoken beautifully and candidly about what Carrick has changed, how United are more compact, more resilient, more capable of finding a way to win. 3rd in the Premier League, Champions League football on the horizon, a squad that is growing in confidence by the week. This is a club in transition, but it's a transition that is genuinely heading in the right direction. And this summer, if Ineos get the recruitment right, United could go into next season as genuine contenders in a way they haven't been for years. Okay guys, that is your full rundown for today. It has been an absolutely packed news day, and I hope you've enjoyed getting through all of it with me. If you did, please give this video a like. It genuinely helps more than you know, and it tells YouTube that this content is worth sharing with more United fans. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below. I want to know. If you had to pick one centre-back target for United this summer, Lukeba or Koulibaly, who are you going for? Let me know down below. I'll see you in the next one. Come on, United.